If you greet your prospects, whether it's in person or online, what should those first few moments look like? What should you say? How should you appear? Should you be excited? Should you be monotone? Most importantly, how can you create a greeting that starts your influence in building a rapport quickly? In this video, I'm going to share with you the secrets to a greeting that I call the power sales greeting. Hi, I'm Shawn Casemore, and I help you learn how to be a top performing sales professional so that you can earn more in less time. If that sounds good to you, make sure you click the subscribe button and you'll be notified each and every time I release a new video. And if you like this video, click like. Now, let's get into it. First off, there's a mistake that a lot of sales professionals make when it comes to meeting or greeting a prospect. That is, they talk too much about themselves. You have to realize that the goal of connecting with any prospect is for you to learn. Therefore, we need to start with a question. Now, that doesn't mean I come up and say, hey, tell me more about yourself, without first covering off a few basics. We'll talk about those in a moment. But what I want you to think about is that, hey, when I connect or meet a prospect, my goal is to get them talking. Therefore, I need to have a good solid question or a couple of questions that I ask in the first few moments of that conversation to get them talking, so I can learn more about what it is that's important to them, and most importantly, so I can gain intel that will help me position down the road, not at this moment, but down the road, what it is that I sell. So that's the first thing I want you to consider. The second thing to consider is a lot of studies suggest that you've got anywhere from 7 to 12 seconds to make a first impression. Now, whether it's 7, whether it's 12, whether it's 32 seconds, it really doesn't matter. Here's the key. Those first few moments of that connection, again, whether it's in person or virtual, really gives the other person time to judge us. So what I mean by that is those first few moments that we connect with a prospect, they're actually gauging us. I don't want to say they're judging us, but they're gauging us. They're looking at us and saying, is this somebody that I want to get to know, that I want to spend a little bit of time with? Remember, when we're meeting with a prospect, there's give and take. I'm looking for some of their time, which is their most important or most valuable resource. So the first few moments of that interaction matter. A couple things for you to consider. In fact, 3. First off, smile. That might sound crazy, but did you hear how my voice changed when I smile? If you meet somebody like this, doesn't have the same impression. Think about the last time you walked by somebody on the street and they smiled at you, right? How did that make you feel? In the moment, you probably thought, hold on a second, why are they smiling? Who do they know me? Right? It got you thinking about them, which is the key. So smile. Maintain eye contact. Notice I'm creating this through a video. So essentially this is similar to a virtual meeting. I'm staring at that guy, mimicking eye contact that I would use if I was in person. So you need to maintain eye contact. So it's smile, it's eye contact, and you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Shawn Casemore. Now I'm gonna continue on with that in a moment, but you have to start by introducing yourself. Don't start with a question. Don't start with some random, hey, nice weather we have here. Introduce yourself. First question anybody has is, who's this person? So you might as well answer that question, okay? So there's the 3 steps you can use during the initial greeting to kick things off and make sure you make a good first impression. Let's move on to the next step. The next thing I want you to consider really is what I call a script. But before I talk about the script, which builds on what I mentioned previously, which is introducing yourself, it gives you another couple steps you can add here to get things rolling. I want to mention something about small talk, okay? Having spent years in my early 20s, which you can tell was quite some time ago, small talk was one of the ways I counted on or relied on to get a conversation going. Problem is today, 30 years later, 25 years later, people are very busy. So if I'm to sit and talk about the weather and the news and whatever else, you don't have time for it. And there's a risk I'm gonna bore you to tears. There's a chance you'll engage, but then if you do engage, now we're not talking about sales or selling at all, which is also a problem. So small talk is okay, but keep the small talk small. Make it a small part of your sales conversation. Here's a better approach. Another 3 steps. We talked about the initial 3, those first moments. I'm going to give you another 3 steps in the form of a script you can use. So after you introduce yourself, you simply move into asking them a question, like I mentioned at the start. Now that question can vary, but generally you're trying to find out, why are they here? What are they doing, right? So if you're at an event, you might say, again, I'm going to give you a continuation. So I've said, hi, I'm Shawn Casemore. What brought you to this event today? Or if I happen to drop by and see you at your office, hey, appreciate you coming out to meet with me, wondering what you have on your agenda for the next half an hour, right? Because I want to meet with you for the next half an hour. Or I could say 15 minutes or 20 minutes. The shorter, the better. You'll know that if you watch my videos. So I have to be relevant to the situation at hand and ask them a question. Because again, the goal is to get them talking. Now, if you want to suggest in a virtual meeting that there's not as many options to ask a question, you can ask this one. You can say, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. What did you want to ensure we covered today? Right? There's another question you can use as an opener. It gets them talking. So this script, step one, is ask a solid question that's relevant to the surroundings and the situation at hand, but that helps you understand more about them and their priorities. Step two, once they've answered that, I want you to say this. I want you to say, that's great. I'd love to chat about that. There's a couple things I want to cover off as well. Where would you like to begin? Now, I can say that slightly differently, but here is the key. The key is we want to turn over the steering wheel, if you will, the driving of the conversation to them, although we're not really doing that. We're just giving them a sense for doing that. So after they answer that initial question, I don't jump into my pit. I don't try to defend why I'm standing here or why I'm talking to them, because that makes it look like you are a salesperson. What I really want to do is suggest there's a couple things I wanted to discuss with them, or something I wanted to share with them, or something I wanted their opinion on, right? There's 3 different ways you can ask this next step, and that I want to ask them what's important to them. Okay, so again, I'm at a meeting, I'm at an event of some kind, I run into them, I've said my name, I've asked, what brought them to this event, they've told me, and I say, I'd like to get your opinion on something. Before I do though, tell me, what is it that I can answer for you? Or tell me, what is it you know of my company? Or tell me, do you know what our company does? Okay, because now I'm trying to blend, okay, what they might know of me so that I know a starting point. Now, here's why you ask this question. And again, I've given you a couple examples of how to do this. Your goal next is, do they know anything about you, your company, your product, or your service? I need to know that. Here's why. A lot of salespeople here jump into a sales pitch. Well, I'm Shawn Casemore. I work for company ABC. We service companies like XYZ. These are the things we do. These are the ways we do it. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. So as I transition through learning more about them, learning about their priorities, then I want to try and understand, what do they know of my company, my product or service, if anything? They might say, I know nothing about it. Great, we can start the conversation that way. But if they do know something, I'm gonna know what that is, because I don't want to repeat it. I don't want to bore them. Remember, we've got a very compressed time frame to keep people's attention. So as you work through this script, that next step is to say, well, tell me, and here's another, I'll give you another example of how you might say this. I work in the HVAC industry. What do you know about HVAC? Now, if I'm at an HVAC event, I'm not going to say that, but I might say, we actually repair air conditioners, commercial air conditioners. Tell me, do you know much about the repair of commercial air conditioners? Right? If they say, yeah, we do that as well. Say, oh, okay, well, nice to meet you. Moving on, right? But the point is, I have to find out first what they know of my company, our products, or our services by asking a simple question. Here's what I want you to notice about these steps I'm sharing with you. They're all questions. At no point am I jumping into a pitch. I'm not a fan of a sales pitch. Even an elevator pitch that you might have, and when somebody says, tell me what you do, I convert mine into a question. I say something like, well, we actually help companies accelerate their sales results, but you know what, tell me a little bit about your sales, and maybe I can give you some examples of how I would work with you. That's my sales pitch. It's a question. I'm trying to get them talking, and that's the goal of this. If you want to have a good greeting, have good questions, get people talking. I got one more tip I want to share with you next. Presuming by this point you've followed all the steps I've shared and the conversation is progressing, you've learned what you need to learn, you've started sharing some information, asking more questions, at some point we want to transition this to an opportunity. Now, this is an initial, let's say, Teams meeting online, or I've met you at an event, right? The circumstance in which I meet you is going to depend on this next step, but there are really 3 steps to use. Notice the repetitiveness here. 3 steps to use to transition from that conversation to the opportunity. Here they are. Step 1. Paraphrase or summarize what you've heard. So if they've told you about their company, if they told you what they know about the HVAC industry or what they're interested about in the HVAC industry, they've told you what their role is, whatever the case might be, you simply paraphrase. That doesn't mean repeat everything. It says, so you've been working in the HVAC industry yourself for about 10 years, and it sounds like your company is looking for a new individual or new company, if you will, to work on your air conditioners. Is that about right? So I'm trying to validate that what I've heard is correct, and that allows them to kind of go through and say, okay, this person has been listening to me. So that's step 1, paraphrase what you've heard so far, kind of bring a summary to the conversation. Next step is you suggest a follow-on meeting. They say, well, it's been great spending this time with you, but there's a couple of things I'd like to share with you. If you have some time, would you be willing to meet with me next week? Okay, so the next step is you ask for a meeting. Third step, You get your calendar out, you get your phone out, whatever you carry with you, and you suggest some dates and times. I've got time next Tuesday morning or Thursday between 1 and 4. What works best for you? So those are the 3 steps. Summarize the conversation, suggest a meeting, provide date and time options, specific date and time options. Those 3 steps will move you to the next opportunity. And if they say, well, I don't really think it's a good idea to meet, I'm not really that interested. Let's say that's their response. You say, oh, interesting. Well, I just really wanted to get your opinion on something, but now it doesn't really seem like the right time. Even if you have 5 minutes, would that work for you? Right? So now I shorten the time duration of the meeting because clearly I haven't built enough value, in this case, in the early part of my conversation. But here's the key to all of this. Good greetings come from good questions. I want you to remember that. Good greetings come from good questions. When I ask good questions and I get the other person talking, then they're interested in me, my products, my services, which means they'll be willing to meet with me. So you have to use that close sequence I provided you to make sure you capitalize on those good questions. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you click like below. And if you'd like more content like this, click subscribe. You'll be notified each and every time I release a new video, which is typically every single Tuesday. And if you've got strategies you've used that have worked really well for greeting others, make sure you comment below. Let's treat this as a community and share with one another. Appreciate your time, and if you'd like more videos on sales, make sure you check out the variety of other videos I have here. Depending on what your challenge might be, I'm sure you'll find the answer to it. And until next time, let's get out there and go sell something. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.